All right, we can begin today's last version, this version style of Good Morning Ori. And today I titled Good Morning Ori Road Trip for a good reason. So fasten your seatbelts, no pun intended. So I got this concept because um, I've been on a really interesting road trip in this EFOT journey so far. Learned a lot of good lessons. Um, have seen some things that I love, and I've seen some things that I don't necessarily care for. But it's been a journey, and it's reminded me of a really good road trip. I'm not gonna ask Anthony because I know he does it on a daily basis. But how many people here have had a pretty good long distance road trip in their life besides Anthony? Just me? Okay. Oh, Shan says me. Okay. Um, and a road trip reveals a lot of things along the way. Um, but before you take a road trip, you always got to prepare for that road trip. And to name a few good trip preparation tips that I've learned, of course, you got to pray, but after you pray for your road trip to be safe, you got to actually do some things in preparation to make sure that your prayers can be answered, right? So you got to make sure your car is maintained. You got the oil change, you check the fluids, you got the tires checked, everything, and make sure that the car should withstand the trip. You should always check the weather forecast, number one, whichever route you're taking, what kind of weather would you possibly be experiencing. Now, sometimes if you're driving through the Midwest or through the South, it's hard to predict weather down there because it could change in a second. But at least try. Check the weather, map out your food and gas places, especially in the long distance stretches. So sometimes you get to those stretches and it ain't nothing there. And if you didn't fill up with the last one, you might be in trouble. Um, Also, as I said, consult Ifa about the trip, prayer, offering, make sure that it could be a good trip. It'll be a good trip for you, along with the everything else I've mentioned previously. And then I'm gonna say this one because I'm gonna connect it later on. Pay your cell phone bill because if you ain't got no cell phone on the road, you are not gonna have navigation unless you got navigation in your car. Um, and who uses navigation in the car in today's time? So make sure you have all those things taken care of. That way that whatever you pray for on the road, you can actually have a decent trip. Now, the analogy that I'm giving is life is a road trip. From the womb to the tomb, there's a road trip planned, and you have to be prepared. And how we are prepared in Ifa world is that kind of like the initiation process is the diagnostic of this road trip for you. It's the printout of the road trip for you. Um, but you got to check your own tires and change your own oil. So everything I just said, just put that in the concept of life itself, because that's the analogy that I want us to pay attention to for the rest of this conversation. All right, now I'm gonna tell you a quick story of my trip from Atlanta to LA. The one from Maryland to Atlanta wasn't really that bad. It was only 9 hours. I did it in one day. Got there, it was all good. But the one from Atlanta to LA was a little different. It was a little different. It was my first long distance road trip. I had never ever been on a road trip that long. And interestingly enough, I took it by myself across country with no help driving and no help, nothing, just me by myself and a bunch of junk in my back seat. And I couldn't even get a hotel room because I couldn't leave my stuff unattended. So um, it was a very interesting road trip. So on the journey of this road trip from Atlanta to LA, first thing I came across was unpredictable storms that I just did not know what to do in those storms. I had to pull over at a couple of them because some of them I couldn't even see no more. Like it was just raining so hard, I couldn't see no more. Um, of course, you always got the usual traffic issues in certain areas as you pull into new cities. Like when I pulled into Dallas, it was like crazy getting in and out of Dallas. Um, but certain cities, at Houston was the same. Um, but traffic is traffic. You kind of predict that. But you also get to see some beautiful sights on the road. There's some good things on the road. You get to see some beautiful things you would never see in an airplane. You get to see different areas of the country. But most importantly, what I really got the most out of it was the windshield time that I had with myself to think along the way, which was really good for me. And I want you to take those 4 points right there, again, transfer them into life issues. Because through life, you will have storms. Through life, you will have traffic issues where things are congested and it's just not moving like you want it to move. But you will also have beautiful times and see beautiful things throughout life, depending on your Ori and how you view things. And you're going to need a lot of windshield time, which is a lot of time in self-meditation, prayer, and just you time. Those things are very necessary when it comes to having a successful trip on this road trip called life that we're on right now, individually, number one, and most importantly. So, but there were some things on my road trip to Atlanta that I did not anticipate. And it's the same thing again happens in life. Even though we had those 4 bullet points, there are going to be some things along the road trip that you're not going to anticipate. Like let's just say a flat tire. Let's just say an engine malfunction. Let's say some people run out of gas, ironically, right? Because they didn't get gas at the last trip stretch. um, you may have a hotel booked and the hotel didn't have your reservations. And now you got to make an audible, right? There's certain things that can happen. But for me, I didn't anticipate how much money I needed to move out here on the road. I had enough that I thought, but when I got to Houston, I stayed overnight in Houston and I did my Osei Ifa in Houston. And Ifa kept telling me that the rest of this trip is not going to be good. And I was like, why? I'm like, what? You said it was. But when I got there, it was like, no, you're going to need some more money. I'm like, but I got this amount of money. Like, what's the problem? It was like, no, you're going to need some more money. So I had to make some calls. So I really didn't have it, to be honest. So I got it and I got on the road. When I got on the road, I shortly figured out why I needed that money. I shortly figured out, it took me maybe like about, well, it wasn't short because getting out of Texas is a long process, but took me 10 hours to get out of Texas from Houston. But when I got into New Mexico, things started changing. I got some phone calls that I needed to pay for some stuff before I got to LA. So I paid those things. Food was hard to find on the road, so I needed extra money for that also. Gas I didn't anticipate, because as you get closer to California, the gas goes up, right? So on the East Coast, I was paying $3 and some change, and I got to California, it was at 5, 6. Um, as I got into Arizona and all that. But the main thing was when I got to Arizona, I'm in the mountains of Arizona, and my cell phone went out. I was like, what the fuck? Now, I was struggling when I was in Atlanta, I told y'all. So, but I had my phone. I'm just being transparent as hell right now. But my phone was on a payment plan. So they still turned my phone off, even though I had a payment plan present. So when I'm in the mountains, I couldn't even use my phone. Oh, I was panicking. Because I mean, and now I got to stop in these mountains, and it's like 2-lane roads, and I couldn't really stop. So if I needed to make a turn, I wouldn't know where to turn at. And I couldn't pull over to the side of the roads and try to put something in my navigation. It just was too hard to do it in that space. So I had to wait till I came out of the mountains. And then when I came out of the mountains and I pulled into a gas station, just by the luck of grace of Ifa, when I got there, it was a random gas station. Guess what they had in the gas station? A Verizon wireless store. Of all things, not a chicken shop, not a burger stand, a Verizon wireless store. So it allowed me to go in there and talk to them and fix the situation, get my phone back. I had to wind up paying the bill in full just to get it back. Again, this is what I needed more money for, right? I paid the bill in full and got it back. Then I got back on the road and I was good. Why am I telling y'all all this? Again, a lot of us are in life dealing with some real life stuff on this road trip called life. And we all have to call these audibles throughout our lives at some point. And the fact that, and I'm making the analogy with E5 because if I didn't plug into the true energy source, the true gas station of life is E5 for me. If I didn't plug into that and I didn't listen, I would have tried to just force it and potentially been stuck. Any comments or questions so far?
I like this. I like this so far. I can completely understand. I've taken that route many, many, many of times. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Welcome to the trucker life for that moment.
I knew you would appreciate this though. Anybody else before I move on?
Aboru Aboye, I appreciate Baba. This is Ifani. I can relate to that totally. And thank you for sharing it.
Thank you, thank you. So on our life journey, we're going to miscalculate some things like that, but we're going to even miscalculate some bigger things in life also. Things like relationships, we're going to miscalculate those things. Career choices, health choices, parental choices, financial choices. We're going to miscalculate some of these things. And especially for the people who don't have their GPS information already. That GPS information is their old dude from initiation. For those who don't have that, it's going to be a little bit more of a struggle to figure out what those things are because you're going to be only solely going by what you feel is correct. At this stage in my life, I am so, I'll say, at this stage in my life, I am solely dependent on the information of Ifa versus my own. I know that sounds weird. Hopefully it doesn't. But what I mean by that is I was having a conversation with someone a couple of days ago, and this person was going through some relationship struggles as usual, right? This is America. Everything that's on internet is about relationships nowadays. But a lot of that stuff is based upon what they feel. what they think in their experiences. When I was talking to this person, everything that they were telling me was based upon their experiences. And I asked them, I said, so what is the source of your understanding about this process? And it was like, just my experiences, what I've gone through, what I've seen. I said, so you really believe that what you've seen is law? So you really have no infrastructure, no guidance of something that's residual from some higher source than yourself. They were like, no. I said, are you a Christian? They said, yeah. So the Bible's not even your source of energy, understanding? Well, to a degree, yeah, but my experiences let me know what I need to do. I said, oh, well, if that's working for you, you keep doing it. But obviously, we're in this conversation, so it's not working. You may want to look into something a little bigger than yourself. And that, again, is why I am the way I am with it, because when you're obedient to the information that you claim that you want to be a part of, that you claim you are, you profess to be, then you have to be obedient to the information that's given and understand that this thing is much bigger than you. You can travel this road trip and get stuck somewhere in the middle of nowhere, find yourself all alone, then try to do that same thing, calling yourself. I guarantee you, what most people do when they get stuck, when they struggling, when they in that valley, they call on that God then, right? But what about when the road trip is all beautiful? You're on the road and you seeing pretty beaches off the coast. You're seeing pretty mountains and trees. You're seeing all the beautiful aspects and skylines that look so gorgeous. Like, but then when you hit those storms in the middle of the road, the first thing you call on is that. Telling y'all, life is a road trip. What is your source? Matter of fact, I'm gonna address that question to everybody, get y'all involved. So what is your source of understanding when you hit life storms and traffic jams and all that stuff, or even when you see beautiful landscapes? Like, what is your source of energy and understanding to keep you focused and bring you back to the destination that you're on? Anybody?
All right, I'll go first. One is recently, I've been going back to the teaching from the Ori University, trying to figure out, is it me or is it something that I've done? If I can't figure that part out, I might ask close family and friends their opinion to see again if there's a outside, like sometimes when you're in the box, you can't see out the box. So I ask them, and then after that too, sometimes I just sit and meditate and try and figure it out as if it wasn't my problem, as if someone came to me and asked me about it. But so far, that's my sources.
Okay. Sure. Anybody else? Brittany Cash.
Ori, Ifa, family and friends.
Okay. How does that look though?
What do you mean?
Let's say something happens and do you go to pray? Do you get a dafa done? Or like what's that look like? The process that you go through to get that clarity.
I go to Oseifa, if need be, Dafa. But most of the time, it hasn't been that serious for me, thank goodness.
Mm-hmm.
So I could do Oseifa, family, friends.
Okay.
And Ori most of all.
Now that's interesting. Ori. Okay, I'm intrigued. So when you say Ori, what is it? What does that process look like?
My own understanding, my own study, my own knowledge, my own ability to pray, have faith.
Hmm.
It's the guy that drives trucks too. He's always on. His name is Anthony. This is my spiritual.
Um,
Good morning, everyone.
good morning, good morning. Um, that's interesting. Okay. I'm gonna keep that in the pocket. I'm gonna write that down. Where my pen? Dang it, did I move it? Oh, it's right here. No, I'm gonna do it right now. Ori, Ori-Search. I'm sorry, I call it. So it's called Ori-Search for me, right? Gotta do some Ori-Search. All right, I'm gonna keep that as a note. Anybody else before I move on? What's your source when you hit those road trip storms and potholes or flat tires in life? Like what's your source to get you back on the road? Going once, going twice. All right, let's get back into it then. So here's the thing. Sometimes when we on these road trips, and again, the analogy is life. When we're on these road trips, and that includes everything I named as far as um, the experiences on the journey that we're going to have from relationships, health, parental, parenting, financial, and whatever else comes in between that. Sometimes when we're on these things and we experience those storms in those areas and at those times in life, sometimes we refuse to pull over. Sometimes we refuse to pull off the road. Sometimes we see something beautiful and then we pull off the road and it distracts us. It distracts us. We lose time on the trip. We got to spend more money that we probably didn't have on gas or whatever else. We get over there, we gonna buy something. We do all kind of stuff because it's what we wanted to do. Sometimes you're supposed to make that pit stop, and sometimes you're not. But if your check engine light comes on the road and you refuse to pull over, that is an yayo that we call pride and ego. That we are using our own understanding when the spirits are trying to give you symbols and signs that something is wrong. You're in a relationship and things are not going well. Does that mean that you should abandon the relationship? No. It's just a check engine light that says something is wrong that needs to be fixed. You don't need to scrap the whole car and call your insurance company. Just fix the car. And the main car we're talking about is guess who? You. Because check engine lights don't come on for everybody else. They come on for you to see so that you can make the corrections within you to make the right choices, to be able to listen, to be able to do the things, and to be able to reach the destination that you've agreed to reach. Hope this is making sense to somebody besides me. The uniqueness about this concept, y'all, is that everybody's journey will be different. Everybody's journey may be different from person to person, depending on which destination that you chose to take, which journey you chose. If I'm driving from here to Vegas and you're going from here to Niagara Falls, it's going to be a very different journey. Mine is going to be very hot and dry. Yours is going to be all kind of everything: dry, hot, wet, cold, storming. Like you're going to experience everything going in that direction. So because my journey was dry and I'm on the phone with you talking about how hot it is over here, you over here in the storm over somewhere else, You can't compare to my journey because you didn't choose my destination. So everybody's journey is going to be different because based upon what you chose, that is for you. And can't really nobody tell you what's for you because it's not their journey. Only thing that can tell you that is the source. Stop over at the gas station and fuel up. Stop flagging people down on the freeway trying to get a spare tire change. Pull over at the gas station when you see the check engine light, or when you see the gas light go off. Pull over. When you forget pulling over at the check engine light or the gas light, pull over when the gas is on half and get some more gas. That way you ain't got to worry about it. What Sugar Free say? If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. I may be taking my trip in a Bentley. You may be taking your trip in a Ford Focus. Does that make my trip better than yours? No. It may be more comfortable, right? But does it make my trip better than yours? No. We can both be going to Vegas. But somehow the choices that I made either in heaven or the choices that I made here on earth has benefited me. I'm not going to say they were better, but maybe more calculated. But if you find yourself in that Ford Focus on the way to Vegas, which is a horrible idea, especially in the summertime, because that desert would eat your car up. But if you find yourself in that Ford Focus and you're having these breakdown issues, because you know what Ford means, right? Fix or repair daily, right? So if you find yourself in that Ford Focus and you find yourself fixing it or repairing it daily on that road, then you got to question yourself, what got me in this position? And it's me. Because you can always upgrade that Ford to a Bentley over time, unless you hit the lottery, right? But that's metaphoric still. You can always upgrade that. But if you find yourself in that scenario, having to take that trip for whatever reason on your destination to get where you chose to go, then you got to, like Ori say, do a Ori-Search to figure out why that's a thing. Any questions, comments, additions to that?
Keep cooking, keep cooking. It's good.
So, question to everybody here. Is your mindset focused on the ride or the journey? Which one is more important, the ride or the journey?
Well, for me right now, the way my life is going right now, it's the ride. I know I'm on this journey, but I'm focused on this ride right now because I got to take it mile by mile, piece by piece, so I can get to the end of this journey.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Talk to me, y'all. Ride or the journey? What's more important? Nobody wants to.
I think my question is, how do you know the difference between the ride and the journey itself? When like some people, they don't know when they've arrived. You know, when we look at certain people, we're like, wow, they really arrived, where they feel like they still have so much more work to do. And that's been a part of their journey, is striving for more. When we look at certain people, we say, wow, they've really, you know, made their way. So I sometimes don't really know I mean, does a journey end once we pass? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how do you determine the journey?
Good question. Um, the journey is the journey, but the ride is the ride. It's really that simple. The journey is the process you're going to go through in order to get to where you're supposed to be. Now that your question is predicated upon or contingent upon how a person defines arrived. Does arrived mean that I got the house, the car, the picket fence, the dog, and the spouse? Does it mean I can travel and do whatever I want? There's money in the bank. I'm not worried about anything. Is that what arrived mean? Because that's not spiritually arriving. That's some things you've acquired in the journey,
Okay.
right? The journey is not until your main mission is complete. And to me, most people expire once they finish their journey. They don't last long on planet Earth once they've done what they're supposed to do. All the people who have done great work in the world, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, anybody you name, don't really live long after their journey is finished. So I always say, like, if you're living here and you are still on this planet, your journey is still continuing. Once you have done what you know, but particularly, like I said, you wasn't here on the line when I said this, but the marker to this journey for us people who practice Ifa is initiation odus. It gives you a guideline of what you're supposed to do. And once you know what you're supposed to do, you will know when your journey is complete because you know what you're supposed to do. How that looks, we don't know. But when I'll use me as an example, my journey tells me that I'm supposed to be teaching and speaking to thousands and masses of people, right? So that's just one part of my journey. I'm sitting here talking to 6 people. Do you think I've reached that journey yet? No. The destination of the journey? No. So even when I reach the thousands of people, is my journey done yet? No. Because now I got to know what I'm supposed to do with these thousands of people. Now, once I've learned that, then it's going to be like, well, how long does that process take for this part of the journey to be over? Do I have to do it for 10 years, 15 years? Do I have to live to 90 and die on the stage? Like, what does that look like? I don't know. But whenever it's time for me to go, I will know that when I look back, I will know that I've done what I was supposed to do. Even if I teach for 20 years on stage to thousands of people and I die on the 21st year of that process, I can look back then and rest assured that I've done what I was supposed to do.
So I think then the ride at a certain point in time in life is more important. And then in another phase in your life, I feel like the journey is important. It kind of unfolds like a flower. So I think right now I'm focused on the ride, making sure I have all the tools that I need on the ride, and doing my part as a human being in general, and hopefully being aligned on my mission. And then another phase in my life is being able to look back on the ride and being able to process that entire journey. So I think it depends on what phase of life you're in and what's more important at that time. I think time plays a part on the ride and the journey and what's more important.
You both are correct. The ride is important and the journey is equally important because the ride dictates how you're going to get there, right? The ride dictates your mindset while on this journey also. So even if you're in a Ford Focus and someone else is in a Bentley, what's your mindset to get to that? Or are you trying to do things, cut corners to get to the Bentley so that you can get a smoother ride and have a better trip down this journey? Are you willing to go through the process to get to the Bentley and smoother ride, using the tools that you have and taking the pace that Ifa sees fit for you? Everybody's journey is not going to be the same, as I said. So we can't keep our eyes from somebody else's upon and watch what they're doing and see how they're living, because that may not be for you. Your journey Because the journey is where you're going to learn. The ride is where you're going to learn. You can learn lessons in that forward focus. I can learn how to change a flat tire even. I can learn how to change oil. I can learn how to do all kind of stuff in this forward focused journey that I can never get in a Bentley. If that makes sense. So the ride and the journey is equally important, but the ride is for the right now situations and how you handle the right now situations. And how you handle the right now situations is based upon, again, like I said before, our question I had before is, what is your source of understanding? Is it just your personal experiences you're going by, or is it something higher than you? Because some people can get the Bentley and then fall back down into a forward focused reality. If that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
In closing, the last thing I'm going to address with y'all is last question I'm going to propose is your Ori obedient to its purpose over the surface, which is kind of what I was just talking about. The purpose meaning the purpose is attached to the journey. The surface is attached to the ride. So on the surface on this ride, you're going to see a lot of things that are shiny or not so shiny. That's kind of not so motivational. The purpose in the journey is, like I said, where the lessons are that you need to accomplish this. God can give you a treasure chest map, but does that mean who's seen Jumanji, the movie Jumanji with right? Like that's a perfect example to me. Like you're gonna go through all these things on this journey to get to this quest. You're gonna have to risk your life at times. You're gonna have to risk all kind of things to get to this treasure. Even equal or death is a possibility in this process, but you got to risk it. But everybody in that story was different. Tall, big, fat, short, everybody was different. So everybody's journey was not the same. This is the same analogy for this. So the surface part, again, is the ride. You cannot focus on what you do have or what you don't have. All you can focus on is what you need to get to the next step. And that's why I say the ride are the bite-sized pieces along the journey. The purpose is in the journey, because you can't fulfill the purpose without fulfilling the journey. And you can't fulfill the journey without fulfilling your purpose. But those bite-sized pieces on the surface, on the ride, will help you to get there, depending on how long it takes depends on you and your Ori. Again, are you going by your own understanding or something bigger than you? Are you doing the Ori-Search on yourself to figure out what it is? Because that Ori-Search, guess what it requires? Humility. I'm not even going to name everything else. Humility is pretty much gives you all the array character traits in one. Pretty much, if you are humble, you're going to be everything else that Ifa wants you to be. And humble means that you got to be willing to say, I don't know everything. My experiences ain't the key to life. They're just my experiences. They're my lessons to learn from on the surface, on this ride. One roller coaster in the amusement park does not make up the whole amusement park. It's just one ride. Any last comments, questions, concerns?
I'm just gonna say I like the way that you did this one. Well thought out, well put together.
Thank you, thank you. Anybody else have any last comments? Brother Charles or
Yeah.
lawyer?
I like the way you refer to your road trip as our life, our way of life, and our Ori. And I never thought of it that way, but it makes a lot of sense. Thank you for sharing.
Sure. Okay, so everybody out there who watches this video later, everything that I'm saying is based upon my understanding of Ori, my understanding of Ifa, my own personal journey, my own personal rides. Everything I do is based upon that. But I've learned in my life through some hard-headed trials, I must say, and learning my lessons along those trials. Sometimes I saw the check engine light and I did not pull over. Sometimes I saw the gas light come on and I did not stop at the next gas station. I just kept going, saying, I know I can make it. I made it last time. And messed around and ran out of gas. Like, and I'm using these as analogies, of course, right? But even in E5, I've done the same things. Like, I've been told certain things, and particularly character related. Those of us who've practiced E5 for any amount of time, we understand that when you do Father readings and get initiated, that you're going to be told some things that you can't do. They call them taboos. And these taboos come with like food taboos, and they also come with character taboos. The character taboos are attached to what? I'm gonna let y'all guess. What are the character taboos attached to? I can't hear you, Anthony. You're saying something.
I'm not 100% sure, but I was just guessing. Normally, it seems like things that, from what I hear from other people, normally things that they like, they try to stay from, but it's a hard thing for a lot of people because they like these things.
You're right, but I'm trying to figure out what's the source of that attachment. Like, why is it? What is the character? What are the character taboos attached to? And why does that make it so hard for people to keep? Come on, alumni. Wait, who is DB? DB, who was that? Who's that?
Dante.
Oh, what's up, man?
So
Is this with the zodiac signs, and when people feel like, oh, that's just the way that I am?
No.
Maybe. Okay.
No.
Nope.
No. People will say that though, but no. Nobody has an answer?
Is it
Nobody else?
attached to ego? Is it ego?
It's a part of it, yeah, but that's not the answer I'm looking for. I'm talking about the epicenter of all of these things. Ego and all that stuff are they're tentacles of this thing.
Last guess, your Ori?
Yes, sir. So that should have been a given. This is an Ori presentation. You know it's going to go back to that. So people can let go of food taboos, and some of those are even tough for people. Try to tell somebody from the South to let go of catfish. They're going to think you're crazy. Right? Because this is how they were raised. So emotionally, in their mind, they're attached to that source of food. But when you take it a step higher and you get a character flaw or a character tablet, you can see all the red lights, all the check engine lights, the gas lights come on. The car can break down completely, smoking and on fire. Depending on the Ori of this person, they still will not let go of that character trait. That's why Ori-Search is so important. That's why it's so important. Because the question is, why is this person not willing to let it go? Do you really want to reach a destination? Yes, I've been doing everything I'm supposed to do. I do my Oshay fire every 5 days. I do my prayers, yada, yada. I know how to do ritual. I can feed my Ori. I can do all these things. I know all the prayers. I know how to go feed Oshun at the river. I know how to do all these things. What does that got to do with what's in your Ori? What does that got to do with your inability to humble yourself and say, I don't know everything. My experiences aren't the author of everything on planet Earth. They're just my experiences. I didn't even have majority of the control in these experiences. Some things you do have control over, some things you don't. They're just experiences. But if you're in this thing to do what you said you come to do, and that's to be a good Akapo or Rifa, or if you want to be in this, or you just want to just take some information from this, you may not even want to be in this. That's okay. Take what you need to use it for what you do. But you got to pay homage to the source, and you can't use it for your own selfish purposes and say, I'm going to take this to my experiences and enhance my experiences and then elevate my belief in my experiences. That's just not realistic. In my humblest opinion, do what you do with it. That's up to you. But in my humblest experiences, I'll say, even no pun intended, that's not a good idea. Because the source of this thing is the gas station you're going to need when all falls down, in the words of Kanye West. When it all falls down, you're going to have to come back to that source. And that source is connected to one thing, your Ori. And if your inability to release that character trait that you need to change, and I'm speaking from experience, I'm telling y'all what I have gone through. I know that I have done throughout these last 3 or 4, how long has it been? 4 years now that I've been doing this Ori thing. I've learned a lot about myself. I've had a whole lot of Ori-Search about myself to change. That I do understand now that I do understand what humility is. And I've had to do it last night with somebody. Like I had to just humble myself and be like, okay, this could be me. I could be the problem here. And I'm just going to take care of the problem that I have to fix and not worry about nobody else but what I got to fix. How many people understand the strength, the courage that takes to do when you feel like somebody is doing something that you don't like and you remove them out of the equation and you recenter it around yourself? What am I doing? And you make a decision to say, I'm going to do what I got to do despite whatever this person does. Because if I told me that anger amounts to nothing, if I told me that my mouth will kill the things that I want, they didn't tell the other person that. They told me that. So for me, I have to humble myself and say, this is not about you. This is about me. And I'm doing this because I want this to be good for me, number one, everything else second. But I can't get the assistance from an Orisha, from Ifa, from anybody, an ancestor, an Egungun, a Dafa, or reading. I can't get the assistance if my Ori is stubbornly blocking it, trying to do it based upon what I wanted to do. The journey is the journey. It is the journey. We can't shift it. It was already chosen. It was already given. The road trip, we can manipulate. As long as you stay connected to the source, doesn't mean that you're not going to have a few rainy days on a road trip, because no one told you that life is going to be perfect. But it will provide you an umbrella in the storm. On that note, I'm gonna get out of here, y'all. But I appreciate y'all's time. Appreciate everybody being here. Appreciate your support over the years. We gonna keep this train moving, though. The journey continue. We just on a road, different road trip.